It has been a massive day for the BSE Sensex as it crossed 80,000 points today for the first time. This is the highest ever the Sensex has been at. It closed the day a little shy of that mark, but it's a really important day, not just because the fact that it hit that mark, but also how quickly it happened. Let me take you through some of the headlines that have come in today on the BSE Sensex and tell you why it is so important. Now, it took only 138 trading sessions to reach this point. These are the big headlines. The week says that asks whether the Nifty will cross 25,000 as well as the Sensex has breached the historic 80,000 mark. Now, the Sensex had previously crossed 70,000 in December. So from December to now, early July, that's a really quick point. But also, it's only taken 5 years for the market, for the Sensex to double from 40,000 to 80,000. Remember, the previous 10,000 to 40,000 took 19 years. And this has happened only in 5 years. So it's really what analysts are calling a Goldilocks moment for the last 6 months, because we were looking at 8.2% GDP growth, which had gone up from the previous 7% in the previous year. Inflation was also at 5%, which is not perfect, but it's pretty close to that 4% mark, which makes the RBI comfortable. Also, our fiscal deficit, our current account deficits were well managed, and corporate India's numbers were not particularly disappointing either. So all of these things came in at the same time. What the market calls a Goldilocks moment, which means it's not too hot, it's not too cold, it's just right. Corporate earnings were robust. The Nifty posted about a 25% growth also. So it's looking really good. Now, there are some sectors that are seeming overheated. Industries, railways, defense, PSUs, these are the ones that reacted most to, the exit polls and the election results. And there's a possibility that there might be some correction there. Now, remember, the stock market tends to be valued based on price to earnings ratio. That sounds complicated, but what it does basically, it's a formula that looks at the price of the stock right now and looks at the earnings that that company has made over the last 2 years and thereby the projected earnings for this year. So if the price is very high in relation to the earnings, that they say the stock is expensive. If the price is low in relation to the earnings, they say the stock is cheap. So there are a lot of stocks right now that seem expensive because of this run up. The most expensive stock is Maruti Suzuki India. There's also Ultratech Cement, Bajaj Finance. This is according to Money Control, that seem at this point very expensive, along with Reliance Industries, L&T, TCS, and IndusInd Bank. Among the stocks that are on the cheaper side are Tata Steel, Power Grid, ITC, NTPC, Bharati Airtel, and Adani Ports and Special Economic Zones. Now, analysts are particularly bullish as well on some of these stocks. The most bullish they happen to be on the banking stocks, and ICICI Bank and Axis Bank and HDFC Bank. This is according to Money Control. Looking at the article that's on your screen right now, but looking at the week that is asking the question on whether the milestone for the Nifty, which attained its record peak at 24,300 a few minutes before 10 a.m., is likely to cross the 25,000 mark, and when that's likely to happen as well. We're going to keep an eye on that. Now, remember, the important part really is the fact that the government still, in the second half of this parliament session, will bring in a fresh union budget announcement, and that will be something that the market will react to as well. The week has also made a list. This is a PTI copy of mid-cap stocks in the BSE that have done really well. And if you take a look at that, you'll see it says that while the Sensex did really well, like the market capitalization of BSE firms have hit a record high of 5.33 trillion. And it continues its ongoing streak, because at the end of the day, what we have right now is a country that is growing really well. Inflation is down, which means that people can afford to still spend money. Maybe the RBI will cut some rates as well. That will allow for more spending and more flushing of cash in our economy. Among the Sensex pack, it says Adani Ports, Kotak Mahindra Bank, HDFC Bank, Axis Bank, IndusInd Bank, SBI, Power Grid, Bajaj Finance were among the major gainers. So really, the stock market worth keeping an eye on at this point, as it continues to do really well. I personally have been a big believer in mutual funds and the SIP route of investing that benefits from every up and every down. So that's something that's sort of like a little tidbit for you there. Moving on to other big news that's coming in today, of course, our second lead story this evening is the Hatra Stampede. This one, like I took you through the information that we had yesterday. We know that an FIR has been filed by the police in Uttar Pradesh. They have named the organizers of the event, but they have not named the Bole Baba, who was the key person in that event. Now, the death toll as of today has risen to 121, with 28 people currently injured. The Uttar Pradesh police has registered an FIR. It has not named Baba Narayan Hari, who is the Bole Baba, who as an accused in this at all. They have named the main organizer. The FIR has been registered under the new IPC, or the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, for culpable homicide, attempt to commit homicide, wrongful restraint, disobedience, and so on. One thing I must point out here that the Chief Minister, Yogi Adityanath, while speaking to the press, also suggested that there might be a conspiracy involved in this as well. And I'll come back to that. This is not the first time that the Uttar Pradesh government has suggested conspiracy instead of taking responsibility for what happens in its own state. Now, as per the FIR that has been registered, what we do know is that Suraj Pal, who goes by Bole Baba, has not been arrested. We understand that the organizers of the event, who have been named in the FIR, asked for permission for 80,000 people, but there were more than 2.5 lakh people who actually gathered there. When the satsang was over, there was a large crowd leaving the venue. Those who were sitting on the ground were apparently crushed. Committee members used sticks to forcibly stop the crowd from running in the water and the mud-filled fields, and this caused more chaos. It also says that the police and the administrative officials present at the spot made every possible effort and sent the injured people to the hospital. Now, from what we understand, also, there has been, when people went to the hospital, there was a lack, there weren't enough doctors, there wasn't enough staff. The hospital at Hathras just was not able to handle this. They were, people brought in who had been killed, who were just left lying on the ground, on stretchers, on blocks of ice. There was not enough staff there to handle the issue. There are some eyewitnesses that say that their loved ones were brought in, they were still breathing, they were still alive, but there was just no medical staff to be able to give them attention, and they then passed away. So this is a terrible tragedy, because the organizers and the police failed to control the crowd, failed to take adequate measures for entries and exits, because the hospitals were not, were inadequate at that point. There were no ambulances. There was no way to bring people into those hospitals as well. This is the individual in question, Bole Baba. Apparently, now it's come out there are sexual assault cases against him as well. This person, from what we understand, was a constable with the Uttar Pradesh police after he quit his job about 20 odd years ago and started, giving sermons and conducting these satsangs. We understand that he also has cases against him. Apparently, the frenzy, according to NDTV, there was a rush to collect the dust from under his feet. And that led to the deadly crush where women and children were trampled underfoot. And, that's, for me, a deeply worrying thing. We understand also, and this is what it says on NDTV, that he's had very controversial satsangs and he has had a history of legal trouble, including with sexual assault. So this is the story I was talking about. Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath addressed a press conference today when he talked about the stampede, and he suggested that there may have been a conspiracy, and he said we will find out. There will be an investigation. So this is a story I'm reading out of the Times of India. It says that CM Yogi Adityanath on Tuesday said his government will go into the reasons that led to the stampede. The state government, he said, and he's quoting, will go to depth of whether it was an accident or it was a conspiracy. We will take strict action against the conspirators responsible for this incident. Hitting out at the opposition, he said the government is already sensitive to the matter. However, this time they should be expressing sympathy, he said. Now, I just want to point out here, and that's the headline that we're looking at. For those of us who are watching it on YouTube, I want you to imagine in Mumbai there was a concert for Ed Sheeran where over 4,000 people, I understand, attended, and it was organized in such a way where everyone was told which gate they could enter. There was gate 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It went on past, I think, nearly 20 gates where people could come in and out, where the cars would stop, where it would drop off, where the ambulances were on standby, and which hospitals were, kept on alert in the neighborhood because it was a large gathering of people. Compare that now to 2.5 lakh people who've attended this event in a space that was actually only put together for 80,000 people. No hospitals nearby, no ambulances nearby. Nobody is on alert. So to suggest that there has been a conspiracy at all would suggest that not just the organizers, but also the police, the local administration, the local hospitals, the local doctors, everybody got together and conspired. And it was not a failure of organization, but actually a conspiracy of organization. And that should draw a whole other set of questions. But we've seen this happen in various state governments in the past, that when something goes wrong in administration and the lack of efficiency is then called conspiracy, and you say antisocial element or somebody else did this instead of taking responsibility for what has happened. And we see this happening again in this case, and that again should maybe raise a question as to the value of life in India. 121 people dying in a stampede is unthinkable. And also, all of the stories that we've heard after that of not having ambulances, people actually carrying their loved ones to the hospital and then carrying them away, carrying their bodies away, is just heart wrenching. But unfortunately, that's the truth of what has happened. Moving on to other stories now. Like I told you, the parliament session was on. Today, the Prime Minister spoke at Rajya Sabha. And he did say at Rajya Sabha, he launched a scathing attack at the opposition. There was no sloganeering in Rajya Sabha. So he actually was able to speak and his voice was clear so we could understand what he was saying. He said the opposition is politicizing the very sensitive issue of Manipur. He said violence has been declining. Schools have reopened in most parts of the state. He said those who are raking up the issue had abandoned it. One day Manipur will reject you, the Prime Minister said. Specifically talking about Manipur. He said the Home Minister stayed in Manipur for many days, responding obviously to the Congress that had said the Prime Minister has not gone anywhere near Manipur since then. But while he was speaking, the MPs stepped out with louder slogans. They were chants of Manipur, Manipur, justice of Manipur, and that brought in reprimands from the speaker. But the Prime Minister did manage to make that statement today in Rajya Sabha. Now, the Congress has responded to that. Congress MP Gaurav Gogoi has spoke in Lok Sabha before Lok Sabha was adjourned. This is on the 3rd of July. And he said the Prime Minister repeated his old allegations and cracked jokes, but he did not have the patience to listen about Manipur. In the meantime, in another very important political development, Hemant Soren will return most likely as Jharkhand Chief Minister. Champai Soren is likely to quit. Remember, Hemant Soren was released on bail from prison after being arrested in an alleged land scam, and he's likely to become Chief Minister again. The change of guard was decided at an India Alliance meeting of MLAs and leaders that reached a consensus over the replacement of the chief minister. This is a source-based story written by India Today. Well, here's a slightly positive story. Don't want to leave you hanging with nothing. The Indian cricket team has finally managed to leave from Barbados, where they are. They've been stranded since the final that they won because of a storm that basically closed the airport. So they've actually had to sit in their hotel rooms from Saturday until today. But they are flying back. From what we understand, they will have a private ceremony with the Prime Minister in Delhi on Thursday morning. And they will be, felicitated by the Prime Minister, and after that, there will be, I understand, a sort of a bus celebration and a presentation ceremony at Wankhede Stadium in Mumbai. There'll be, a 1 kilometer journey done in an open bus parade. And then there will be a ceremony at Wankhede Stadium. So the England cricket team, victorious after the World Cup, are on their way back home. So that brings us on that positive note to the end of this story. Remember, like, share, subscribe, and sign up for our membership as well. It will help us, financially, and will help us bring you more independent news. Thank you for watching.